Welcome to this week's edition of Inter-University Debate. This week we are hosting Uganda Christian University, a university that qualified for the quarterfinals during the Inter-University Debate. We are very, very glad to host Uganda Christian University, and I would like to start by congratulating them upon making it to this level of the debate. I'm your moderator for today. My name is Nakasingo. I'm an advocate, a tax consultant, and a lecturer. Several universities made it to the quarterfinals as well. We have Makerere University, Kabale University, Islamic University in Uganda, Uganda Pentecostal University, Makerere University Business School, Kampala International University, Nkumba University, Busitema University, and Uganda Matters University, Kozi. So these universities will battle each other during the quarterfinals. But before that, the universities are holding their internal debates, and that is why we are hosting Uganda Christian University today. This debate is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV, and it airs every Thursday on Civic Space TV from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Let's look at our topic for today before I introduce the debaters. The topic is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges for gender equality in Uganda? So let me go straight and introduce the debaters who are going to help us unpack today's topic. Let me start with the first debater. That is Mr. Okiror Daniel Okiror. Daniel, you're welcome to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Daniel. I fancy say Daniel Okiror Musinguzi, a second year student at UCU, Uganda Christian University, Mukono, the main campus. Yeah, I also run the projects for the Rotary Club there, primarily. I think that's summarily a bit about me.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. Our second panelist for today is Ms. Nakasingo Sandra. Sandra, you're welcome to reintroduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Jenda. My name is Nakasingo Sandra, LLB3 student doing Bachelor's of Law, and I'm happy to be on this space today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, and we are happy to have you for this debate. Our third panelist is the gentleman that represented Uganda Christian University during the inter-university debate and made sure that Uganda Christian University qualified for the quarterfinals. And that is Mr. Onen Douglas Drake.
Thank you very much, Jenda. My name is Onen Douglas Drake, student of law at Uganda Christian University. I'm grateful to be here and looking forward to unpacking this interesting theme. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Douglas, for that. Our fourth panelist is Ms. Uweera Harmony Letitia. Letitia, you're welcome to reintroduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Uweera Harmony Letitia, a law student at Uganda Christian University, Mukono campus. I'm so excited to be here and I can't wait to get into the conversation and the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Letitia, and we are happy to have you. So, as earlier mentioned, our topic for today's debate is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges to gender equality? To introduce this topic, gender equality has been spread out in the laws of Uganda. To start with, even our own constitution has different provisions that ensures that there's gender equality. And I will leave that legal framework to our panelists for today. So years down the road, we are evaluating today, have Ugandans attained this gender equality? And I will give opportunity to the panelists to give us introductory remarks to today's debate. And I'll start with you, Daniel. It's time for you to give us your introductory remarks.
Thank you so much, Fancy. The topic for today is whether or have Ugandans attained gender equality and what are the opportunities and challenges. To start with, I think for the purposes of this conversation, I think I'll use gender equality in the sense that this is the state of the equal ease of access to opportunities, including but not limited to, of course, economic participation and decision making. And yeah, I think basically gender equality also extends not just to that, but also the state of valuing, one, the different behaviors. Gender equality, for me, for the purposes, for the context of this debate, gender equality will be the state of equal access to resources and opportunities, regardless, of course, of gender. And it includes, but is not limited to, economic participation and decision making. But I think it also extends, one, to valuing of different behaviors and aspirations. And lastly, perhaps, the needs of each and every individual, of course, regardless of gender, once again. Now, for the purpose of this context, I think it is imperative for us to note that the status quo in Uganda as it stands, of course, like you hinted on, the legal framework for the equality under Article 21 of the Constitution of Uganda, 1995, that provides that all people are equal, regardless, of course, of gender, regardless of race, regardless of economic or political participation, and of course that moving forward, I think Article 42 still provides for affirmative action that allows for the creation and implementation of policies that support minority or underrepresented or groups, basically. Basically, what this means is that the government has the ability and the power to develop frameworks, legal, institutional, and economic in nature, to favor those that are basically disfavored and pull them up to bar. The status quo as it stands going forward, I think, in Uganda, according to the UN Women's Data Hub from the UN website, 34.9% of seats in parliament as of February 2021 were held by women. Now, 34.9% is, a remarkable increment from what it was previously. However, still that does not represent the equality in the House. Equality here being, of course, a 50-50 split. And moving forward, even still, the same can be translated into other areas. For example, in the economic area, a report by Set Up Uganda, civil organization, anyway, dealing with empowering young people, empowering the youth economically. In the report listed that 43.5% of startups in Uganda are founded by men. Now, this means that relatively, 43.5% of Uganda being funded by men is basically a translation of only male-dominated startups. In the cases where you have a mixed team, perhaps 2 out of 3 are men. In a situation where you have only women-founded startups, it's a very, very disproportionate figure, and you can see that this, of course, this disenfranchises the female population in Uganda economically, because primarily what you could say is that as by our economic nature in Uganda, how we do in our economy, how our economy reacts, responds, and treats different rights, is a direct reflective of what exactly happens, not only in our households, but in other sectors, be it education, be it justice, be it, of course, the political sector. And 75% of frameworks in Uganda, anyway, according to the UN trackers, the SDG, the Sustainable Development Trackers, show that 75% of all legal frameworks that promote, enforce, and monitor gender equality under the SDG indicators, of course, with a focus specifically on violence against women, are in place in Uganda. I think a lot more still can be done to bring the total figure to about 100%. Of course, that being the goal. And I think when you look at our state in Uganda, where a situation, I beg your pardon for my stammering, but a situation in Uganda where women and girls over the age of 15, of course, 15 and above, spend 14.6% of their time in unpaid care and domestic work compared to 8.8% of guys, and where the employment rate is marginally higher than that amongst women than amongst men. You have 11.7% of women being unemployed in comparison to 8.4% of men. Of course, the ages of 15 and above still. I really honestly believe that Uganda has not yet attained gender equality. I think important strides, yes, have been made, but I think a lot can still be done. I think there are serious impediments that I think I look forward to getting into
Thank you so much, Daniel, for your introductory remarks. He was able to define what gender equality means. He gave us a brief on the legal framework as well as the status of gender equality in Uganda. Let me move to the next panelist to also give us her introductory remarks, and that is Sandra. So, Sandra, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Leka. I don't know if I've listened so clearly to Daniel's submission, but to go straight to what I think is best in tonight's debate, we are basically going to discuss 3 questions in tonight's debate. And one is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? And my short answer to that question is, Ugandans have not attained gender equality, and I feel they're not about to attain gender equality. And secondly, giving a definition to gender equality, to me, I think gender equality is all about when people of all genders have equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. This does not mean that men and women become the same, but it means that their opportunities and life chances are equal. Thus, I think they enjoy the same status. So, in our tonight's debate, talking about whether Uganda has attained gender equality, and then secondly, moving to the second question on what are the opportunities for gender equality in Uganda. Basically, I think most provided to that. So to that, I feel we've not attained gender equality, and for the opportunities being given to the female gender at the expense of the male gender, that is why I stand that we have not attained gender equality as a country. And then thirdly, the last question asks for the challenges for gender equality. There are many challenges looking at the social sector, the economic sector, the political sector. Gender equality really has many challenges, and I'll be propounding more when we continue with the debate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for that introduction. Let me move to the third panelist, and that is Drake. So you have the floor to give us your introductory remarks.
So I'm so delighted having had Daniel's submission and Sandra. It seems they are taking the same path, that as Uganda, we haven't attained gender equality. I would love to submit that I would align my thoughts with their submission, that yes, my response to the question is, as a nation, we haven't yet attained gender equality. However, this would be my introductory remarks. Looking at our history as a nation, we are a country that, one, we are based in Africa, and our laws, before we went into the British common law, we used to appreciate our laws, the customary laws. And our customary laws are respected in our constitution, yes. And most of our customary laws were one that were against seeing gender equality, because men would be the one that were above the gender bar. They would be above the women, and women are regarded as either sex objects or robots, like work machines, etc., among others. Now, what is gender equality? Gender equality is the state in which access to rights, opportunities is unaffected by gender. That goes without saying that gender equality doesn't per se mean that men and women are supposed to be the same, but rather gender equality is where we see the equal opportunities, life chances are all equal to women and men regardless of gender. So the next question would then be, has Uganda attained that state whereby opportunities and life chances regarded to men and women are the same? I would love to submit that no. And this would be, my justifications would be given as follows, because according to UN Women, their overview of gender equality is, yes, we have seen, as Daniel submitted, a 34.9% increment in female representation in parliament. Women go ahead and also exercise their rights to vote. Women also go ahead and, women can actually now inherit property, as to regards to the olden days whereby they wouldn't inherit property. So that is the overview of gender equality that I would have to submit. But however, there are some gender equality issues that still exist, like domestic violence, dowry violence, forced marriages, among others. So in my subsequent submission, I would show you not only why I say that as a nation we haven't yet attained gender equality, but I will go to an extent of showing you that gender equality isn't about only the women, but also the boy child shouldn't be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Drake, for that. We will surely get into that discussion deeper and deeper at a later time, especially we are interested in knowing your reasons for saying Uganda has not yet attained gender equality, and we'll have that discussion. Let me go to the fourth panelist to also give us her opening remarks, and that is Letitia. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, our topic today, or our point of discussion, is: have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and the challenges for gender equality in Uganda? As my colleagues have already mentioned, I would like to take their stand and define gender equality as the state in which access to rights and opportunities is unaffected by gender. This means that in order for one to access, say, for example, education, healthcare, basic human needs or rights, like, it should not be dependent on their sex, or their sex, that they, like, whether they are a female or not, or a male. Now, I would like to concur with my colleagues and say that Uganda has not attained gender equality. Uganda has not attained gender equality. And a report released by the World Bank Collection of Development Indicators, it showed that only 48% of the labor force in Uganda is made up of females. That means that over 50% of over 0.5% of the labor force is made up of what? Of men. And the labor force includes people who contribute to the production of service and goods from the age of 15 years for a specified duration of time. That means that from the ages of 15, like, if we're counting people from the ages of 15 who work, who go to work, who have a 9 to 5 job, it's only 48% of that entire population that is made up of females. And when we look at another sector like education, we see that from the ages of 15 to 19, we see that the number of females that are educated go on decreasing. This is due to other factors that will be brought in that also contribute to the challenges of gender equality in our country that we have today. And we see that only 7% of men have no education compared to 19% of women in Uganda. And that is according to an article which is entitled "Women and Men in Uganda," written by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. It shows that over 19% of women or girls by the age of 19 have dropped out of school or are not educated or are illiterate entirely, while only 7% of the male population are not educated. Another area that my colleagues tackled is the area of representation in politics. We see that currently Uganda has over 529 seats in parliament, and 146 of those are reserved for women by law. Like Daniel talked about the legal framework. The legal framework provides for representation of women. We have the women MPs, and this is only 146 seats of the parliament that it has. And while this shows presentation, it doesn't necessarily mean effective representation, which is also a hindrance to the gender equality. We also have the fact that we cannot ignore the fact that only 43% of the cabinet of ministers is comprised of women. So I would like to emphasize more on the point that Daniel, Sandra, and Drake have emphasized, that while there are strides that have been made towards gender equality, Uganda has not attained gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Letitia, for that. So let me go back to Daniel. So Daniel, before we go into why the entire panel agreed that Uganda hasn't yet attained gender equality, I would like us to start from the beginning. Please take us through history up to where we are now in terms of gender equality. Where are we coming from and where are we right now as a country?
A complete historical context, in my view, I think would take very, very long, and I mean to capture all angles, of course. But I think for my part, I want to take it in two contexts. First, there's the context of our African culture, and then there's the context, of course, of the Western culture. Now, historically, could the transition or the development of gender equality could be hinged on those two. Hinged on those two different cultures. Of course, it's our cultures that determine, that shapes, of course, our subsequent political scene and all that. And in Africa here, it is arguable that historically, women haven't been given the opportunity, they haven't been given the spaces to exhibit their capabilities, to to be free, to express themselves, to ideate, to be able to implement, to to have their voices heard as regards the political, the social, and the economic aspects of life. And I think that is primarily, I think, one of the reasons that we had maybe so much civil strife coming going back in the day, for the sole reason that, one, I'll point out that one of the opportunities presented by having a gender equal or gender a system, a social system that focuses on gender equality, is one that's the sustainability of that society in and of itself. The fact that that society is able to transition, to grow from one state to another, and to perhaps protect itself, protect its economic, its culture, its social, its spiritual values, is something that is, in my view, hinged primarily also on the gender, on the debate surrounding gender equality. Now, over the time, we have seen development. Of course, we have had parliaments created. We have had offices set up. We have the corporate world. We have civil organizations that keep championing female gender equality, and of course, those that keep fighting for female rights. Of course, historically, you'll see cases where there's the Uganda Association of Women's Lawyers. There's FIDA. There is Constitution for Center Governance. It's Center for Constitutional Governance itself. The UN itself. There are very, very many avenues that keep fighting for human rights. Now, the mere fact that these exist is a direct reflection of the problem. We can know that we have a problem by how much exactly or how many people keep raising voices. It's not just a question of people dreaming these things out of the blue and creating a straw man that they wish to attack. But this is a problem that has come over time, and of course, with the creation of parliaments, with a different political setup, comes the question of gender equality, of equal and equitable representation in parliament. Like I said, as of February 2021, 34.9% of all the seats in parliament were occupied by women. And one could argue on one hand, I think that having 34.9% of the seats occupied by women, of course, taking into account the fact that these seats in parliament are, of course, split equally in between the genders. I think that, to me, looking at how far we have come as a country, looking at our social, looking at our political background, shows us that we had an inherent problem, a problem that built a patriarchal society, a society that favored the man, the ideas of right from childhood, the split in gender roles. A situation where we believe that maybe cooking is only done by women, guys shouldn't cook, they can't cook, or they should be out there. And this reflects itself, of course, even in the way we think, even as young people. Of course, society has a very big impact on how we reason and how our values are brought up, are shaped up. And saying that we have 34.9% of seats of seats in parliament occupied by women, I don't think, on one hand, that could be a substantive argument for gender equality, for where our gender equality stands at the moment, because it should be noted that some of those seats, or many of those seats, are actually earmarked for only women. And that in itself is a good thing, because I feel like if we didn't have those positions earmarked for women, then perhaps we wouldn't be seeing such a large number of women in parliament. Now, that in itself, I think, is the context. Of course, the same can be seen through Western culture and all that. Maybe arguably that they have developed at a much faster rate, that they have been able to implement policies that streamline gender equality at a much faster rate, of course, considering our background of colonization from colonialism all through the challenges that are faced, the civil strife, the coups, and all that. All those have been impediments to our quest for gender equality.
Thank you, Daniel, for that. Let me bring the next panelist into the discussion, and that is Sandra. Sandra, I'd like to ask you on something that Daniel hinted on earlier, and that is the legal framework. So what is the current legal framework, both legal and policy framework, that governs gender equality? Okay, let me push that to Drake. I can see Sandra dropped off a bit. So Drake, what is the current legal framework that governs gender equality in Uganda?
Well, thank you. Allow me to start by giving a brief synopsis of where we were before and where we are today. Daniel made mention of the history of gender equality in Uganda. But let me take you back a little. Before the commencement of our to-date constitution, the 1995 constitution, we had previous constitutions before. We had the 1962 constitution, we had the 1966 constitution, then we had later on the 1967, then we had the 1995. Now, all those constitutions, then there was a decree in between there by Idi Amin. If you were to look at all those legal documents that were there before, there was very minimal representation of women or in other marginalized groups in this country. But fortunately, before the promulgation of our 1995 constitution, the Odoki Commission was formed in 1993. And what happened when the Odoki Commission was formed in 1993? The Odoki Commission went ahead and asked people's views. What must our constitution capture? Those views can be said to be the aspirations of the people. So the Odoki Commission got the aspirations of the people. And guess what? The 1995 constitution captured the aspiration of the people. In the preamble, they talked about looking at our history, filled with tyranny, oppression, and all the others. Now, that preamble later on surfaces in the various articles in the constitution. But now, where else do we find rights of women being captured? If you look into chapter 4 of the 1995 constitution, we get rights of every human being in Uganda. But specifically, you look at rights of women provided for, I think in article 37 provides for civic rights. Women can go ahead and vote. Article 42 provides for those non-derogable rights. And gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but it's a precondition for the sustainability of development. What does that mean? That if rights are equally respected and women are put into a place whereby they have equal opportunities and equal chances, we shall have sustainable development. But specifically to answer the question of the legal framework, the 1995 constitution captures that. And our constitution says every other law emanates from the constitution. We see that in the Marriage Act, women can now go ahead and also inherit property. That wasn't there before. Remember, our customary law would it halted women from inheriting property. But the legal framework, the Marriage Act, went ahead and said, you know what, that was more of a lacuna in the law. Women can actually inherit property. Where else do we see women going? The Employers Act. The Employers Act provides that if a woman is pregnant and she has gone she has given birth, she must be given leave. And with that leave, you must be paying her the exact money you would be paying her when she's working. That alone shows you the legal framework that we have the legal framework that is catering for the women. But then the question I still ask, have we really attained gender equality? But I believe I've answered your question, gender.
Thank you so much, Drake, for that legal framework. We shall expound on that more at a later stage, whether the problem is the legal framework or an issue. So let me move on to the next panelist. I see Sandra is back. So Sandra, my question now to you is that right now in Uganda, Drake gave us the legal framework, Daniel took us through history. So what is the status right now in terms of gender equality?
Thank you, Gender. I'm sorry I did not listen to Drake and Daniel submit. My network is so poor. But answering on what is the current status of gender equality in Uganda today, I think that is the question you posed to me. Is that to me, I think the status of gender equality is Uganda has maybe tried its level best to attain, to raise the women from what culture had put them, from what tradition has from time immemorial put women. Uganda maybe by putting all the statistics that Daniel and Drake brought to us about the Land Act and the Employment Act, the Local Government Act empowering the women. I think the government thinks that by providing for the women in the acts of parliament, it is attaining gender equality. But to be realistic, it is gender equality we are talking about, giving opportunities to all the genders, giving similar opportunities to the male and to the female. So I think that by providing for only the women, by stipulating for only the women in the constitution and then the other acts of parliament, it is not bringing out a clear status of gender equality in Uganda. To attain gender equality, we need to put all these opportunities for all of the genders, to put similar opportunities for the male and to put similar opportunities for the female. I know from time immemorial, the men have always dominated. The men have always assumed they cannot give rights to own property to the female, then women cannot attain good education like the male. And the government has stepped in to bring about the 1.5 for the women and then providing the Land Act for the land rights to the women. But if we change the status quo from the grassroots, if we go back to the traditions and appreciate the change and appreciate that the world has evolved and we are not in the traditional ways of where women would not attain education, of where women would not attain property, because we are all land now. Most people are educated and they know the value of a woman. So by putting the stipulations in the constitution and emphasizing on what should be done for the women, makes us women, I feel it really makes us look inferior. We already see that we are inferior, and therefore they're trying to make us feel, I don't know, for lack of a better word, to make us feel superior to the men. But if this was put if this was stipulated in a way that we can all see that what male can do, even female can do, not that they will make us feel we have lower opportunities than the male and therefore they have to provide for us. Yeah, I think that is it.
Okay, so before I move to Harmony, let me first get back to you, Sandra. So Sandra, let me try and get this clear. So is the issue the wording of the different laws that provide for gender equality, or there are other issues?
I beg your pardon, Gender.
When I was listening to you, it made me want to ask this question. So is the problem the wording of the laws that provide for gender equality, or there are other issues?
Of course, there are other issues, but my main point was about the wording in the articles and the provisions of the acts of parliament. If only they would detach themselves from the old traditions and make us now know that we have evolved from the old traditions, and we all know that what a man can do, a woman can do. If we can now see that a woman is not inferior like they used to term the woman in the old traditions, we can I don't know, I'm really gambling, I don't know.
Yeah, that is fine. Let me bring Harmony into the discussion. So Harmony, earlier on, you agreed with the panel that Uganda has not yet attained gender equality. And people out there might be wondering, we have laws that provide for gender equality, and the statistics that came out from the panel is that 75% of our laws provide for gender equality. So if we have the laws in place, and then why are you still saying that Uganda has not yet attained gender equality? You have the floor, Harmony.
Yes, thank you so much, Gender. I think your question to me brings us to the challenges that are faced by gender equality in Uganda. Some of those challenges, we have the culture, as Daniel gave us a brief history of Uganda, and like how gender equality or inequality has evolved over the years. I think we see that culture is one of the main challenges that we have facing gender equality in Uganda. We see that in certain cultures or in various cultures, women are viewed as inferior. We have certain different traditions. Now, like in the Baganda, women are expected to kneel for men, to like, it's sort of like a sign of being obedient or being subjected to men. We have different cultures, like Drake had talked about. Women were not allowed to own property and all that. Some cultures have embraced the new change, but there are still certain cultures that we have in Uganda today that still uphold those traditions, whereby a woman is not allowed to own property. We have certain cultures whereby when a woman's husband dies, she's like, the husband's brother comes on and takes her own, like she's property that is inherited. All those different traditions are one of the challenges that we have facing gender equality in Uganda. Then we have the lack of female leaders or female people to look up to and show that gender equality is actually possible. We cannot deny the fact that we have certain leaders or certain role models, the likes of Rebecca Kadaga. We have the current Prime Minister, Robin Nabanja, the current Vice President, and all those, but those are just a few. They are just a handful and it shows that it takes a lot for a woman to get into a position like that, to be respected and all that. That also it creates a problem, or it creates a challenge with attaining gender equality in our country. We have certain misconceptions, like a man is supposed to be the provider of the family. Recently, I think we saw is it a campaign? I think it was a campaign for Reiko of the Kamenza money or something like that. We have conceptions in our head that a man is the only one supposed to provide, and the provider of the family is supposed to be the lead of the family or the head of the family, or it's supposed to be dominant over the family. And such misconceptions make women into thinking that we are inferior, or you're supposed to be dependent on a man and all that. And that in itself is inequality in the gender balance, in the gender balance. We have another problem of the vulnerability of women. Naturally, we see that women are, like, you cannot compare a woman's strength to a man's strength. That in itself creates an imbalance in the gender equality, or in the gender roles or something like that. Because Sandra was saying that what a woman can do, a man can do. But I would like to differ and say that that's not necessarily the truth, because there are certain roles which are better taken on by men, and certain roles which are better taken on by women. Naturally, it's not because of the way the environment views us, or the way the world views it, or something like that. But there are naturally things that women are built to do that men can't do, and things men are built to do that women can't necessarily do. And I think that in its another challenge is we have I talked about misconceptions, the vulnerability of women, which leads to gender-based violence that we see happening in different homes. Women are beat up, women are mistreated, they end up even being killed, being shot at by men, and they are generally mistreated because they are vulnerable, or they are considered week. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Harmony, for that. Go back to Daniel. So Daniel, Harmony says her reason for saying that there is Uganda does not yet attain gender equality, among others, include culture, misconceptions, and so forth. You also earlier on said Uganda has not yet attained gender equality. What are your reasons?
Thank you so much, Francie. Like Harmony mentioned, I think I would like to just expound something that you mentioned. The fact that there are provisions in the law, or the fact that there's a legal structure that says there should be gender equality, does not necessarily translate into gender equality itself. There's a difference between, putting something in black and white and actually having this actually implemented on the ground. Effective leadership is, in that sense, if the effective gender equality, effective gender representation in that sense, then will not be what we simply say it to be, but rather looking deeper into the social, the economic context of our society and seeing exactly how it is implemented, how whether there is gender equality. Now, of course, as she has mentioned, the key factor, I think one of the key impediments to gender equality as Africans, like I've mentioned before, is our societal values or norms, our cultural beliefs that say that a man is supposed to step into a kitchen and all that. And like I said, all that basically uh, has a psychological effect onto how we perceive, how we see, how we treat women, how we see the battle for gender equality, and how we understand it in today's context. Now, that requires, I think, amongst many other things, I think taking advantage of maybe our education policies, the digital age, maybe the internet and social media as we speak, to kind of have a mindset shift to, I don't want to say indoctrinate, but to teach, to broaden debate, to put all these values, all these um, propositions that we have for gender equality out there into the public, let people actually learn about them, not just surface learning. Of course, very many people just like to maybe see things or just read one line and perhaps believe they have understood. But to have this understood means we have to delve deep into one, understanding our uh, preconceived biases from the maybe from a religious, from a social perspective, and entertaining debate, entertaining thought on the challenge, on the ideas that challenge these biases. And I think if we have a mindset shift, that could be a key catalyst for having gender equality in Uganda. Because if we're able to transform how we see, how we reason, how we engage with the debate on gender equality, then perhaps we're able to come up with more constructive, not only arguments, but more constructive solutions for more constructive policies that actually uh, put the fight for gender equality forward. Now, what would I term as perhaps a more effective policy or more effective of dealing? Gender equality, proposing gender equality, the move for gender equality, I think requires that at all levels we have participation first. I think participation from all stakeholders. Uh, First and foremost, the women themselves. This is, I want to say, yeah, that okay, perhaps first and foremost, ladies need to learn, need to engage, understand with different things. A house that is at war with itself, first and foremost, I think is not a house that is built to be prosperous. But all stakeholders, inclusive of the men, guys need to come out and actually actively engage with debates, with topics, with policies, and the drafting of these policies in and of itself, of course, right from the ideation to the drafting to the implementation. There must be participation of all stakeholders at all levels. I think it's important that we identify who the stakeholders are. And like I mentioned, I think first and foremost, we have the women, then we have the men, we have the youth and the children, who I think are also a very viable subset of key actors in this kind of debate. Why? Because this is the generation of the future. Now, perhaps we're caught at a time where we're phasing out an older generation and phasing out all the ideas that came with them. And we're seeing these ideas go with the development, of course, of the digital age. This is an information era. It's not really as labor intensive as it was those days. And I think it is important for us to recognize this and see the fact that to have a more sustainable approach towards gender equality requires interaction or participation right from a very young age into transitioning, of course, into adulthood and becoming senior citizens, of course, of this great Republic of Uganda. And that is, I think, one of the key things that we need to sort of, we need to see that it's not just a fight for the government, one, but it's a fight for us as individual citizens. It's a fight for all civil organizations. It's not just a fight, it's also a fight for, I think, corporate and business institutions. Why do I say this? Because I believe corporate and business institutions are first and foremost among the most fundamental influences of the observance of human rights. What they do, what they say, what policies they have in relation to maybe protection from sexual harassment, to economic remuneration, to protection of other rights, maybe let's say maternity leave. Of course, taking into account the needs and necessities of each of these genders and how they react, how they respond, how they view that is a direct reflective on what we do. Yeah, so I think to start with, or perhaps to wind it up, yeah, we need to have accountability for these policies, accountability to ensure that they're effective. Of course, there has to be a phase for monitoring and evaluation, of course, at every level, of course, from ideation to implementation, and even at the end of every policy, even as we draft these laws, even as we design programs to uplift the economic status of women. I think it's imperative that we have accountability from our leaders, accountability even from ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that. Let me move to Drake. Drake, earlier in your submission, you also said that Uganda has not yet attained gender equality, and I would like you to look at it from the government's angle. So what is it that the government hasn't yet done that should have been done so that Uganda can totally achieve gender equality, in your view?
To answer that question, we need to note that the government is in three. The government is in three branches: the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. So I'd start by saying that the government has done its part in terms of the legal framework. They have provided the law that is already in place. We have laws that are protecting the marginalized group, of which women are among them, and this debate majorly oscillates around them. So to say that the government has not, maybe the government has not done anything, I would disagree, but the government has done what they could do in terms of providing the law that's already in place. However, I would love to contend that the government hasn't done enough in terms of implementation. Yes, we have the laws that are in place that are enshrined not only in the laws that are in place, but in terms of enforcement, we have the laws, yes. But how far does the government go ahead to enforce these laws that are in place? If Parliament, that is an arm of government, that out of the 500 plus MPs, only 150 plus are seats reserved for women, do we see implementation of the laws that they have in place? To start with that, at that level, I would say the implementation isn't as to par as the laws that are provided in place are. So that alone, the government has not done enough enforcement or enough implementation to see that the law is followed. Let us look at opportunities in terms of economics. We have heard of opportunities such as the MIOGA, such as the parish development models. In the process of codifying or coming up with these projects, we see a very minimal percentage of women coming up to stand in those grounds and also come up with these opportunities, and even on the grounds in the parishes themselves that these opportunities are meant to go and help. The people that are on the front line receiving these resources are men, and leaving alone the groups of women. Now, that doesn't connote to the debate that we're talking about today, because if gender equality connotes to equal representation, connotes to equal opportunities, connotes to equal life chances, then I would say we are far from there, because if all these opportunities are not provided for equally, and yet the law says otherwise, then the implementation is a problem. However, I would love to say that much as we have laws in place that are protecting the girl child, the women, we are seeing girls going to school, not like the golden days whereby girls were looked at as people who shouldn't go to school. Girls are going to school, yes. But I would also love to bring this debate or bring attention to this debate that much as the government is trying as much as they can to see enforcement, to see that women's rights are protected, we need not forget about the boy child. We are living in a society whereby the boy child is being neglected because we're looking at, hey, gender equality. And gender equality that people are talking about is more of feminism. They're only looking at fronting one gender and neglecting the other. Gender equality means both genders are respected and both genders are represented. Now, sometime back, a friend of mine approached me and he was puzzled because, hey, this guy did not know of contraceptives and he had made a mistake. And he told me that, Drake, if the same care would be offered to us as the boy child, as the same care they offer to the girl child, I think we wouldn't be making these mistakes that we are making today. The girl child, once they clock a stage of adolescence, they are trained to prepare themselves for a life that a girl should live. But the boy child is left to the streets. So if the streets are training with the boy child, then are we looking for the sustainable development that we're opting for? Because if gender equality is looking at equal representation, equal opportunities, then we're focusing so much on the girl child and neglecting what the man also has to attain in society. So back to the question of what the government hasn't done, I would say the government hasn't done enough implementation of the laws that have in place. And even themselves not doing enough of the implementation. In the government itself, we have very minimal representation, not only in the legislature, in the judiciary, and in the executive. So we need to walk the talk. We need not talk the talk, but we need to walk the talk. The laws that we have codified, we need to abide to it and respect.
Okay, thank you so much, Drake. But before I move on to the next panelist, I would like to probe more on something that you brought up. That is on the issue of boy child. And my question to you is, since you said the same opportunities that are being given to the girl child should be given to the boy child. So my question to you is, hypothetically, if right now we are to give, the government is to give the same opportunities they give to the girl child, let's say the 1.5 when they join the university, and every other opportunity that the girl child is being given right now, if the same is given to the boys at the same level, my question to you is, do you think then we will attain the gender equality?
Allow me first bring your question. Your question is focusing on if the opportunity is given to the girl child, let's say after completing senior 6, the girl child has a particular points that are given to her, and then the boy child is not given those points. And let's say if the boy child were given the same opportunities as the girl child, would there be equal or gender equality? Well, I think your question is stemming from our history. Yes, our history is one that we have seen the girl child greatly affected, but we have moved some tremendous steps. We have laws in place. We have I think we have reached the point where we have all the necessities in place. If we can even remove those points and then we have an equal pace, that would be fair, because if someone said what a man can do, a woman can do, I would love to reason and think that if we're all on the same playing field, because we have moved way past the stages of our parents, because our parents were in a period whereby, yeah, those points were necessary. But in this .com era whereby the competition is stiff, I was in a lecture whereby one of our lecturers mentioned that if you have to see the big cars that are being driven nowadays, the Volkswagens, the Benzes, and you have to peep in the windows, you would see women. So in my head, I was thinking, if it's the women now driving these cars and the men are on border borders, so don't you think we need to scrap off those points and then have everyone be on the same playing field, because it looks like the women are going way past the debate of talking about equal opportunities, because, hey, the equal opportunities are being too equal to them and neglecting the boy child. Thank you.
Okay, that discussion won't end with Drake. Let me shift that discussion to Sandra. So Sandra, Drake argues that it is time the same opportunities given to girls are also given to the boys. And I would like to bring you into the discussion. Do you think that Uganda has reached a stage where the same opportunities that we gave the girls in order to bring a balance between boys and girls should now be handed over to the boys as well? Do you think we have reached that stage?
Thank you, moderator. I think Uganda as a country has not reached that stage of giving similar opportunities to the boy and the girl child. But I think it should try by all means to reach at that point, because as Drake has said, we've moved past the regime of our foreparents. We are now in a country that has embraced change, a country that has embraced evolution. Like, we've seen things change from what they used to be to what they are now. So speaking from my personal experience, talking about the 1.5 points given to the girl child and then denied to the boy child when coming to campus. First of all, at UCU, I think boys to join law school, you will have to have about 13 points, and then the girls should have about 12 points. And this is really not fair. Still not talking about that, but going back to the 1.5, I would love to bring in my own story. I think I told Drake about this story as among the people in my home district that did not get good points, because surely 16 points are not good points. But because as a female has added a 1.5 and I qualified to go for district quota doing mass communication, which opportunity I did not go for. And the boys in my home district who had 17 points high above me, but these people did not get an opportunity to go to campus on government sponsorship because I was given the 1.5 for free. I think this was unfair to the boy child. Drake talked about fronting the women and then at the expense of the male, and it ended to zeroing down to the 1.5, and that was my personal experience. It up to now still haunts me that I know of the people that needed those opportunities more than me, and they did not get the opportunity, and yet me, I got the opportunity and did not go for the course that given me, and I still opted to do another course. These boys are being punished for that, for the things they really have nothing to do with. They are I guess some of them did not even continue to campus because tuition was nowhere to be seen. And this is where government is punishing the boy child at the expense of the female child in disguise of bringing about gender equality. Gender equality is all about giving similar opportunities. It is very clear with the definition, giving similar opportunities and responsibilities to the boys. That is when the status quo of our country shall be improved. And yeah, I think we would continue living as a country if the similar opportunities like a 1.5 given to a girl are the similar opportunities given to a boy child, because as Drake has said, we are now seeing the boy child on the streets. The girls are now it is now even going to a point where I think the government is now getting to a pressure of empowering the women, and they're not empowering the women to the qualifications, but to the say that women have to be empowered. We all know the members of parliament that were really put to those tables, and what they're doing is really not working out, because we had to see women being empowered, and that is what would make the people excited. So now I think surely Uganda should resolve to giving similar opportunities. If someone qualifies, if she's a woman and she qualifies to go for this, let her do it. If they are male and they qualify to go for this, let them go for it, not basing on their gender, to go for opportunities they cannot handle, or go for opportunities, or fail to go for the opportunities they can actually do better than the female, or the face of empowering the woman that we are bringing about gender equality, which is surely not going to work out. Thank you.
Okay, let me bring. Okay, I can see Drake is back. So Drake, I think you're going to be the last person to submit on that. But before you even give your opinion, let me just ask you a question. Let us put aside the 1.5. Let us look at the rest of the opportunities that have been brought up due to affirmative action. As we know, Article 33 of the Constitution talks about affirmative action and makes women belong to the category of marginalized. So my question is, have we reached a situation in this country where we should take away affirmative action for women in the Constitution and every other opportunity that it comes with, which includes the woman MP position, the female representative positions, the 1/3 representation and all levels? Have we reached a stage where we should take all that away and give equal opportunities to all gender? Drake, you have the floor. You can answer that, and then you proceed to your submission that you wanted.
Well, interesting. I would like to start by saying that change is quite hard, and change is quite one that is funny, and it's a path that if you're afraid to take it, then you will forever remain in the darkness. So allow me to start by submitting that the 1.5. I believe if we are to attain the gender equality that we are dreaming about, we shan't do away with affirmative action all at once. Yeah, there's some privileges that we can start doing away with one by one. As you say, change is one that is necessary in society. So if let's say we do away with the 1.5, because girls have proven themselves worthy that they can actually compete. Let's do it. Let's do away with that. Sandra has given you a life story. How many Sandras do you think are out there that have gotten that opportunity and at the expense of the boy child who cannot afford education and they can't go to campus because the Sandras out there have taken up that opportunity? I believe there are quite many. So if the Sandras out there have taken opportunity and left out the boys out there who could have taken that opportunity, then why don't we start by doing away with that, the 1.5? Now, that is tremendous steps being taken to do away with some privileges that are a little bit not, equal, because we're looking at equal representation, equal opportunities. So if we do away with that, then we look at what other privileges are there that we can do away with to see that we have gender equality. If the Sandras are going to go out there and attain a bachelor's in law and go outside there and start competing, we have very many Sandras out there who will leave law school and go and drive big cars, and the unfortunate boy child will be there turning into criminals and doing acts that would make you, the women, call us, you give us labels such as you're thieves, you are, all those bad labels, because most criminals are men. So some opportunities, some privileges need to be, they need to do away with them, because I'm not saying that we should do away with the affirmative action. Let us take away some privileges that are making the privileged become more privileged, and the so-called boy child who historically we have been privileged, but now we are becoming unprivileged because, the girl child is being given 1.5. And me, the boy child, has to struggle, and I cannot get the government sponsorship because I cannot get that extra. So if at education, we are having more representation for the girl child, because if the girl child is educated, yes, they are going to go ahead and bring development. Now, what is the essence of educating only the girl child, getting the extra 1.5, getting scholarships and going into university, and neglecting the boy child who doesn't have the resources to facilitate the education into university, drop out of university, become a waste or a nuisance in society, and we have the Sandresses out there who will be very successful at the expense of the boy child? Would you then therefore opt for a society whereby we have very many educated women and very many uneducated boy child? I believe not. That is not gender equality. Gender equality is about equal representation. Have I answered your question? I believe I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Drake and Sandra, for that discussion on opportunities. And I cannot wait to ask that question during the inter-university debates when the other universities will be on the panel with UCU. So let's move on from that discussion for now. We move to Harmony. So Harmony, we have been talking about opportunities in gender equality. So my question is, what are the different opportunities? Some have already come up from the panelists, but how about the rest? What are the other different opportunities that come with gender equality?
Yes, thank you so much, Gender. I think some of the opportunities that come along with gender equality, in my opinion, these are like ways that gender equality can be enforced more or made a reality or something like that. And one of the first opportunities that I think we have is removing the gender pay gap, because you realize that there are certain jobs or there are certain institutes whereby a woman and a man are doing the same job, but you find that the man is paid more than the woman. And yet they're doing the same job, and you might find that even the woman might take on more load, and they might give her more work to do because of this inequality that we are talking about. So when this gender pay gap is removed or reduced or done away with entirely, that can help to uphold gender equality more, or move towards gender equality. As we have is using skill-based assessment. Like when people are applying for jobs now, like the Drake and Sandra have talked about that 1.5 points being. I also agree, I concur with them and I agree with them. When you're applying for a job, when you're applying for a place in a university, in a school, there's emphasis should not be put on you and your gender, whether you're a girl, whether you're a boy, but rather what are you bringing to the table? Which skills do you have? What is your potential? What is your academic background or something like that? Rather than looking at, they are giving you this job because you're a girl and they have to create more, to make it seem like there is more gender equality in the organization, in the firm or something like that, using assessing people based on their skills than their gender. Another way that gender equality can be made a reality is making a work-life balance priority. You get? I don't know if that makes sense, but like we realize that let me speak in terms of the law profession. Realize that once we finish law school, it's very hard and very rare to find women who actively practice law, are flourishing in their family life at home. They have children, they have a man, a husband, they are happy in a happy marriage and all that, and they are pursuing their career, they are at the pinnacle of their career and all that. It is very impossible. You either sacrifice your family life as a woman, or you sacrifice your career. And this can be done away with, whereby people can create priority for a work-life balance kind of situation, whereby just because a woman has children or she has gotten married doesn't mean she has to step back. She has to step back from her job. Give her opportunities that you would give another man with the same potential. Give her the same opportunities that you give a man with the same potential. I think these are some of the few opportunities that we have as a country to ensure that gender equality is attained or is made into a reality and not just a myth or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Harmony, for that. Let me bring back Daniel into the discussion. So, Daniel, what are some of the challenges that come with fighting for gender equality?
like I said in my earlier submission, I think first and foremost for us, it's a situation or the case of a mindset shift. The question being whether we're able to drop our outdated and no longer useful ideations, ideas, and conceptions and preconceived biases, therefore, about the whole debate on gender equality, on what it's supposed to be, what it should look like, and perhaps how we can make a more sustainable society by affording gender equality to us as people in the future. And perhaps then adopting a more transitive, a more, I could say, fast forward mentality. We should, I think that I've been hearing the debate previously when the pre-current speakers, and I think in and of itself that's also another telltale sign of how exactly we view the fight for gender equality in our current society. And how we look at it, okay, I don't want to say how we look at it from a male perspective, but I think it's important to consider that even as we talk of having equality, having between both sexes, I think it's important for us to note that certain measures of formative action, like I mentioned under Article 32, came up as a way of breaking, of eradicating this gender gap, of realigning our values as a nation, socially, politically, economically, with the fight for gender equality, with what a society, I think, in our view, is supposed to be a democratic, a free and fair and equal society is supposed to be. And it's important to understand that when we advocate, or when people advocate for methods of affirmative action, that some of these methods are not intended to disenfranchise, I could say, the gents or gentlemen for that matter. The intention is not to disenfranchise them, it's to provide a ladder or a stool upon which ladies can stand and come up to power, of course, considering the generations behind us, considering that they have a lot of gap in the context of time, in the context of economic resources, political representation to catch up for. And that is where we are currently. So even when we talk about gender equality, it's also important to know that one of the imperatives that, like I've mentioned, following a mindset shift is the involvement or the participation of all stakeholders, like I mentioned earlier. Drake talks about bringing the guys on board, and in my view, his submission would be premised on the fact that in the context of the fight for gender equality, so of course taking into account the fact that the affirmative action measures brought in place, we're looking at a situation where we also need to get these gentlemen on board and have them understand what exactly we mean by gender equality, how exactly we can achieve this, and what that means for our society. It does not mean taking things away from them. It means perhaps giving them something more by offering someone else something. And that is something we need to understand. So participation is also a very key thing. Another hindrance I find, I think, like I mentioned, is the reluctance of key actors to actually implement. Everybody is good at saying at things, at drafting papers, but nobody is really good at having or following through with these promises, with these policies. And like I mentioned, the key actors in this scenario, I think, would be one, the government, two, maybe like I mentioned, big corporate and business institutions that play a very major role, because like I mentioned in my opening submission, everything else, our education sector, our religious sector, everything is a direct translation of what exactly is going on in our economic space, and how our economic space looks at, and perhaps ideas or things or debates on certain fundamental rights is exactly how we come to view them. Of course, taking into account, or for purposes of maybe illustration, I'll give the scenario of a famous female athlete, a track athlete, that was put off her sponsorship with Nike just because she got pregnant. Now, that in itself shows you how our business society looks at women as commodities, as commodities to push themselves, as commodities to further perhaps their corporate image, but not really looking at their rights. The fact that this is someone that has to go into a period of 9 months, then undergo intensive pain just to give birth to another human being, and you're dropping them the moment they do not become economically viable for you. So all in all, I think how our business space, how our corporate space looks at the rights for women is also a very key influence on exactly how whatever. And yeah, the lack of accountability. Lastly, I think, like I mentioned, the lack of accountability from our politicians, from ourselves, from our civil spaces, how we don't have these people who are in spaces where we can openly question them on the policies and the implementation and how that has directly impacted or affected our lives. And I think that in itself is a problem for us because we are subjected to lip service and we do not actually see anything.
Thank you, Daniel, for that. Let me bring Drake back into the discussion. Drake, given a position of authority, what policies and laws would you put in place in Uganda to ensure that we attain gender equality? So, Sandra, given a position in government, a position of authority, what laws and policy would you put in place to ensure that Uganda totally achieves gender equality?
Thank you so much, Gender. So, if I'm put in position to help, so sorry about that. So, your question was, if I'm put in position, what measures would I put in place to help Uganda attain gender equality? First of all, as a person, I think gender equality can only be attained if, like Daniel said in his submission, saying that we change the mindset. It has. We do not groom ourselves to what we become. We all believe our societies groom us. It is our parents that tell us this and this is right and this is not right. So if I'm put in position, in any position of the government, that I can put laws that can bring about gender equality, first of all, I don't know if this would work, but I would make sure that parents and the societies groom children in a way that they all know that a boy and a girl deserve equal opportunities. What a man can do, a woman can do, not necessarily that living about the masculinity of the boys, talking about the body structure of the women, and then the men, that some things that the men can do, a female cannot manage, that we all know the different social organs and biological abilities of a woman and a man. I would make sure that the parents washing utensils, let the boy do anything, let them do similar things, and not make sure that they will teach the boy to not speak up. Let the boy man up, and let the woman do this and do this. Let them teach the children that they can all do similar things, because we are all human beings. There is nothing like a woman is inferior and then the man is superior. They should not teach the men about the masculinity that which they build cage themselves into. They put these boys in a small cage that they attain gender equality. By making the men feel they are superior to the women, it is only bringing us to now that we are even about to see the men emancipation, like we see the women emancipation, because now the men also feel they are being left out. In a sense that they know that they've been superior, and now they're seeing the women being raised to a level where they feel now the women are going to become superior than them. So we are about to see a Uganda, or even a world, because gender equality is being spread to the entire world. So we are about to come to a generation where we are seeing men fight for their rights as well. But if the parents and if the societies taught their children, if they groomed them in a similar way, this would really bring about gender equality, maybe. And then secondly, I think if I was to be put in power, I would scrap off the affirmative motions that women are among the marginalized group of people. Surely we cannot be proud to feel that women are put in a marginalized group of people. We are human beings, and we can really, I feel we can get to a point where our communities can work best with the men and the women. This is also bringing about divisionism, where we are bringing we are the coming to cause division to the equality. The feminists are bringing their voices high, and the misogynists are also bringing their voices higher. So it is even bringing in divisionism. So if they really disrupt women and marginalized groups, and we also need superior, no one dominates the as a country. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for that. Moving to Harmony. So, Harmony, what do you think the citizens themselves can do in order to promote gender equality in this country?
Yes, I think what Sandra said is very important and very key, because if we are to deal with issues of gender inequality, it has to begin from the roots, from the foundation. We should raise our children and tell them that just because doesn't mean that you are of greater importance than so on, so than a boy, than a girl, or something.
So, Daniel, how best can the citizens themselves contribute to gender equality?
So how best can citizens themselves contribute to the fight for gender equality? Like I said, first and foremost, I think we need to understand that this is not a fight for the government alone. This is our fight. And a lot more changes when we get our hands dirty and put in the work than when a government says, okay, possibly, I think, that just says on paper that this will happen. So citizens themselves should start engaging, I think, with the debate. They should start actively engaging, submitting. And when I say engaging with the debate, it's not just a question of how well they're able to speak up, to submit on the issue of gender equality, but I think also how well we're able to take in or take cognizance of other people's divergent opinions. There's a trend, there's a contemporary trend right now. Well, we do not want to listen to views that oppose us, anything that is not palatable to our maybe preconceived notions or cognitive biases, then is scrapped off as being rude, as as something that we cannot listen to. But I think it's also imperative, one, for the sustainability of society and the sustainability of the gender equality fight, that we take cognizance of our divergent views, be it religiously, socially, economically, and that we sit at the drawing board and harmonize these views, engage with these debates. Secondly, I think it's also, we should take up the fight for gender equality, I think, a lot more personal than just also engaging in intellectual debates. But also, there are people that may not be able to engage in intellectual debate, but are able to, let's say, fund civics organizations. People should invest, I think, yeah. As individuals, we should invest. As companies, we should invest in the fight for gender equality. We should not go beyond just lip service, but go beyond drafting policies and actually put money into organizations that fight, into championing certain things, whether that means maybe making losses on our parts. And I think that's also a very, very key thing. Lastly, I think as citizens of the Republic of Uganda, like Harmony has said, it is about raising a generation that actually understands, that is in touch with the necessities to establishing gender equality. And I think it goes to that we should also look at how best we can get the young people involved, young people that being maybe those that between in secondary school, universities, and going on. The better they're able to understand this, the better then we're able to live.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Let me have Harmony back to complete this section. Thank you. So, Harmony, you have the floor.
Yes, as I was saying, different organizations, schools, and all those other entities that employ people should not focus on should not focus on the gender of people when they are applying, when they are giving them jobs or whatever, but rather consider more what they have to what they have to bring, their ability, their skills, and other things like that, rather than focusing on the gender. That is an important or a key way that citizens can actually ensure that gender equality is also brought up or is made into a reality. Yeah, and I think also the other.
Thank you, Harmony. We shall have her back. So let's move to Drake. Drake, my last question to you is, how best can the youth contribute to promotion of gender equality in this country?
I'd love to start by saying that we are blessed and privileged to be living in an era where we have technology, where people have open minds, unlike in the previous olden days, wherein people's minds or mindsets were very rigid. So that goes without saying that with the youth, with the generation and the times that we live in an era whereby we are open to new ideas. So having those qualities of open mindset and all, let us use the mindset that we have not to discriminate based on gender, because we are capable of doing that, because these times whereby we can connect and to communicate with friends and families wherever we are. So let us embrace technology. Let us use technology to spread the gospel about gender equality. Let us use all the platforms that we have, we as young people, to see to it that we live in a society or we live in a generation that people are respected, not because of the gender, but because of who they are and of what they can do. And lastly, before I went off, you asked me a question. I think it was about, I don't remember what exactly the question was, but allow me submit that the mistakes that our parents did the olden days shouldn't be the same mistakes that we are doing today. Yeah, I know there's a saying that not every injustice is ours to solve, but in this particular context, this injustice of gender discrimination is ours to solve. If we want to live in a society that is greatly developed, we need to embrace gender equality. We need to embrace respect for each other, not only gender equality, not only based on gender, but also we need to put aside our differences and respect the persons that we are, not the persons that we think we should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jake, for that. Let me give Harmony an opportunity to conclude on the point she was making earlier before she dropped off due to internet.
Yes, thank you, Fancy. Another point I was giving is when it comes to issues like gender-based violence, we see that women's cases are given more attention, or they are attended to with more urgency than when a man goes to complain of something like rape, or like my wife has been mistreating me or something like that. So we should destigmatize those things of like a man being mistreated by a woman, a man being raped by a woman, because they actually happen, but many of those men are afraid of going there to report the case because of the stigma that comes along with that. Because men are viewed as like strong or something like that, there is a perception in the society that a man cannot be beaten by a woman, a man cannot be raped or something like that. So we should destigmatize the negativity that is associated with such cases or such incidences in the society as citizens. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have come to the end of our debate for today. I'm going to give the panelists an opportunity to give us your closing remarks, and I'll start with Daniel.
I would have to say that this has, it has been an informative and insightful discussion, a very great debate. I'm grateful to my fellow panelists for devoting their time as well. And yeah, I hope that in the subsequent course of events, we're able to sharpen our arguments, ideation, and come up, I think, with more resolute answers to the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, moderator of today. It was a very fruitful discussion and a good one with the moderator herself and the team. So now my conclusion would be, I would first of all be sorry for my network at first, and then I will conclude with saying that for there to be a fair world, we really as a country need a happier man and a happier woman who are true to themselves, and we must raise our daughters and sons in the same way, and we should give them equal treatment. And by this, we shall attain gender equality. We always do a disservice to the boys in raising them by defining them with maturity and then making them feel they are dominant. But if we raise them in the same way as we raise the girl child, or if we give them similar opportunities, we can really attain gender equality as a country and a world at large. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sandra. Let me move to Drake.
My parting shots are, I think I'll break them into three. First, I would love to start by saying that as a country, theoretically speaking, yes, we have attained gender equality. We have the laws in place. But then it brings me to my second point that regardless of the laws that are in place, we need to implement, we need to walk the talk. We need to go ahead and implement all the laws that we have that provides for gender equality. And then lastly, my third argument would then, as I earlier on said about the young people with the youth, we need to embrace the times that we are living in, the times whereby we are open to new ideas and are open to learning every day. So let us have a mindset change towards gender discrimination. Let us have equal opportunities as young people. We need to embrace the times we're in, and let everyone do what they can do based on merit, not based on gender. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, let's have closing remarks from Harmony.
Yes, thank you. I would like to say that Uganda has not achieved gender equality. However, we cannot deny the fact that we have come a long way. We have taken major strides towards this gender equality as a country, and this should be a point of encouragement or morale boosting to show us that we can actually cover more distance and achieve this gender equality that we are talking about. And finally, I would like to thank CCG and Civic Space TV for this opportunity. It has really been a fruitful discussion. I'd like to thank you, our moderator, and my fellow panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harmony, for that. I would like to extend my gratitude to the panelists for today's debate. I must admit that I really enjoyed that debate. Thank you so much for the research well done. Thank you for being very articulate and helping us unpack the topic. For today we had 4 panelists from Uganda Christian University. We had Okiror, Daniel Okiror, Nakasingo Sandra, Onen Douglas Drake, and Uweera Harmony Letitia. Thank you so much to these 4 lawyers in the making who were able to unpack this very interesting topic for today. And our topic has been, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges for gender equality in Uganda? Thank you so much, the panelists. Thank you, Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV for organizing this debate. Inter-university debate airs every Thursday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Civic Space TV on YouTube. Thank you so much to our viewers. We are all looking forward to the quarterfinals inter-university debate, where Uganda Christian University and other universities will meet on the same panel and they will debate. We will be able to see which university makes it. For me, I would like to say thank you and bye.